Okay, so in today's video, we're going to talk about impact, and we're going to talk about it in sort of three stages. The first stage is understanding the positions. The second stage would be how to hit shots from that position, and the last stage would be the sort of progression it would take for you to be able to, again, get into that position long term. Now, this video has been prompted by recently I set up an online academy, and with students there I've been sharing information with, and what I've done on the online academy is the videos are kind of in step-by-step fashion. And the feedback has been really good that I've received from a lot of students so far. And I thought I'd obviously share that information with you guys as well. So what happens is when I do stuff on YouTube is I'll often try and talk about similar things to try and encourage you guys not to get distracted by working on things that I would perceive would be incorrect. But if I sort of talk about dropping the shoulder down or shifting your weight towards the lead hand side, what tends to happen is maybe that's quite simplistic and that's quite nice in many respects, but maybe it's open too much to interpretation. So what I'm hoping today's video will do is it will really give you clarity on exactly what it is that you're trying to mimic in the golf swing and get a strong feeling for. And like I say, I know it's certainly been helping a lot of students online. So your eyes are lying to you is the title of this video. Or it kind of, is what's attracted you to watch this video. And the reason for this is because I think it's an important thing that you understand. And I wanted to try and gather as much attention to help you as much as I possibly can. So what I want you to do, and hopefully as you practice this, you'll be able to see what exactly it is that I'm going on about in terms of your eyes are lying to you. So the first thing that I want you to do is I want you to place one alignment stick on the floor. Now this first alignment stick needs to be 45 degrees open relative to your target. So if you're just practicing at home, obviously you would aim towards whatever the kitchen worktop, and you just put this alignment stick down at a 45-degree angle. So it would go in line with my right toe, and then obviously my left foot would stand on it, and it shoots through between my toe and towards my ankle line. And then what you would do is you'd place another alignment stick through your belt loops, like so. Now, what we're going to do, I'll come back to this one in a moment so he doesn't get too distracted. The priority, first of all, is to understand what the lower body's doing, and you're trying to do two things with the lower body. You're trying to shift weight towards your lead foot, because this produces linear motion. And then the second thing that you're going to do is you're going to trigger rotation. But what happens with most students is that, especially golfers over recent time, they sort of think rotation is this. And this is just spinning. And can you see the way that there's a problem when you do this motion on two fronts? One, it's too much rotation, so it kind of forces you over the top. And second, is that my pelvis is too horizontal. So if you look now between this motion, see the way I'm miles more tilted, as opposed to this motion, this is no good. So what you would do is you'd sort of just practice this first, and this is what I'd also class for those of you that ask questions on the channel about what does pelvis into leg mean. This is exactly what it means. It means my pelvis is moving into my leg. I'm not turning over the leg. This is into the leg. And that's why I think if you concentrate on shifting your weight towards your lead side and you sort of match up the hip relative to the one that's on the floor, this should give you a decent indication of exactly where you're trying to get to, reference this sort of impact position. Now, once you do this, the question is really, and again, this is why I said about your eyes lying to you, because when some people say, I'll drop my shoulder down, they'll know that's true because you watch the pros, but when you do it, you hit the ground early. So the question is, well, how is your shoulder really dropping down? And your shoulder is actually dropping down because of what we've already demonstrated. One, because the pelvis goes to the left. It tilts the pelvis, and your shoulders will always align themselves to the pelvis. Do you see what I mean? So if I sort of pivot like this, that's why you come over the top, your shoulder gets stuck instead of more this way. So understanding how your pelvis moves fundamentally is the first thing to understand. But the second thing to understand is that when you keep your head still, okay, so if I move my head in line like so, you can see where my shoulders are. But as I keep my head still, can you see the way it kind of creates like another tilt? Okay, so what I mean by first tilt, so if I move this way, my pelvis becomes tilted. So instead of being horizontal, it's tilted. And then my shoulders are equally tilted. But as I put my head back to the still position, can you see the way now my shoulders are even more tilted? Now, the reason why this is important, and this is how I got my students to do it, let your shoulders move with your upper body until that becomes mastered and you're confident with this motion. And I don't mean this in a sort of egotistical way, but I do make this motion look easy, and I know that students that I work with struggle. So much so that this is where when I end up doing video calls with students, this is what I'm doing. I'm watching them do these motions and ensuring that they're doing them correctly. Because obviously if you can't do this motion, you're never going to produce it in a golf swing. So what I'm saying is the first step is just allowing yourself to do this. Once you can do the lower body action, then you can concentrate on keeping your head still. And what you should start to notice is when you can keep your head still and you're still triggering the lower body action, it should also trigger your chest rotation. So you can see the way my head is still, my shoulders are tilted, my right shoulder's down, and my chest is open to target, as opposed to somebody who might interpret the information as something like this. Do you see? So what I'm trying to say is understanding rotation is one thing. Understanding linear motion is arguably, I would say, nowadays more important actually. You know, because I think once you understand the importance of linear gives you the ability to create tilts. Now, for clarification, I'm talking about pre-impact here. So I don't want to get lost thinking about the start of the downswing, because I understand in the start of the downswing, things would look a little bit more downward. But what I'm trying to do and where I get more success is concentrating people's attention on impact when you're trying to hit the ball. So I'm just going to simplify it now. So I'm basically just going to do lower body and then get my head still. And now my shoulders are square, or they're slightly open, but they don't feel it. And that's what I'm saying about your eyes lying to you. Most of my students still feel like, because they get so accustomed to moving this way, and it's the head that stays still and the chest is turning, it'll feel like your shoulders are actually very open. It won't feel like this, you know, when people think, you know, keep your shoulder back. So I do think that's a really worthwhile exercise. And I think until you actually have a go at doing it, it'll be difficult for you to sort of comment really on the success or failure that you're having with this. And I think, like I say, because I do this fundamentally with students, I prioritise the pivoting action first. I know it works. So if you feel like that is definitely worth you doing. Now, what will then happen is, once you get accustomed to this, you'll be able to go to the range. And if I get my feet parallel, my shoulders obviously parallel, but what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to concentrate on keeping my head on the back of the ball. But see the way I've gone back into this open hip motion. So and then see now the shoulders are square. And all I'm doing, so it's not this, it's this, and my right shoulder drops, okay, because of the separational motion, but I've still got my chest rotation, okay, and then here I am in this sort of impact position, if you like, okay, so I'm going boom, boom, okay, and it's exactly the same as the drill. And then obviously from here, you can just try and hit some little half a shot, and you can just get very accustomed to that sort of impact position. Okay, so again, I get set up, feet parallel, I move my pelvis this way, similar to what I demonstrated at the beginning of the video. I keep my head still, this tilts my shoulders, okay, so it's not this, it's this, so I'm still triggering rotation, and then again, I can just swing back a very short distance with just a pitching wedge, hitting the ball about 100 yards. Now, so that's how you would go from doing the drill to hitting balls. Now the question would then be, and this is again where I try and help out online students as much as I can. The question would then be, well, how do you then go from this type of drill to hitting balls in full? I think the answer is that we all kind of know the answer, but we're looking for the magic pill. And there is not really a magic pill, let's all be honest. The general research when it comes to making a swing change is actually quite simple. You're going to enhance your chances of making a swing change based on a couple of things. The first one is repetition. The more repetition you can do in a practice session, the more you're going to build up a sense of familiarity and improve things like that plasticity and get your brain creating connections. And then the second thing really is frequency of practice. You know, obviously the more you can do it, the more likely again that you're going to make a change. But the last one would be, and this is why I think going back to this drill is very important, is every practice session that you walk into, you should concentrate solely on one thing, and that's it. So what happens with golfers is that often if you hit the golf ball incorrectly, you might need to reprogram how your body moves, and then you might need to reprogram how your hands and arms move. Now what I'm not saying is, I'm not saying that you should master the hips and then master what your arms are doing. I'm not saying that, but what I am saying is, let's say you practice 3 times a week. The first practice session you should concentrate on your pivot. The second practice session you can do some drills on your arms, and the third practice session you could work on your backswing pivot. What I'm saying is it's theoretically irrelevant what you do, as long as you do one thing in every practice session. So I am truly hoping this video really helps. I'm also obviously letting you guys are very aware that I have this online academy. And, you know, I'd love you, for some of you, to participate whilst there's still some available spaces. And it'd be a great opportunity to help. But as ever, for those of you that have lessons or you like to work on things on your own, this should be very beneficial, because I think without understanding this and just hitting balls down the range, you're going to struggle. So think about the repetition. like I said to my students, if you hit 100 balls twice a week, you need to be accumulating some practice swings in beside those as well to increase that repetition dramatically. And obviously what I'm saying is, if this feels very alien, which of course it would to start off with, I bet you after 400 or 500 repetitions it won't feel as alien. And then I bet if you carried on doing that drill at home, you'll eventually learn that's the start of the downswing, and it'll be a massive game changer. See you soon.